Good evening, everyone. The Planning Commission meeting of March 19th, 2025 is called to order. The Planning Commission meeting is being broadcasted live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable, Channel 6, and AT&T UVerse, Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called Cablecast and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. Current Planning Commission agendas are available by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. Can we have roll call, please?
Sure, thank you. Board Member Fuentes?
Here.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fuentes. Commissioner Lee is absent. Commissioner Nazarian?
Yes.
And Chairperson Chirachian.
Here.
Thank you.
Next, we have report regarding posting of the agenda.
The agenda for the March 19th, 2025 regular meeting of the Glendale Planning Commission was posted on March 12th, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall and on the city's website.
Thank you. And that takes us to the approval of minutes.
Mr. I don't think we'll be able to approve or act on the November 6, 2024. I'm the only one here, so
That's
we may
correct.
have to defer that to the next meeting.
Okay, I will put that on the agenda for the next regular meeting. The next one is the Planning Commission minutes from March 5th.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
And a second?
Well, I think we're making a motion on approving only minutes for March 5th, right?
That's correct.
Yes, second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to oral communication. Do we have any oral communication items here?
We do not.
Okay, and that brings me to board and commission member comments. Commissioner Fuentes, I believe you have one.
Just a quick announcement again. This coming Saturday, March 22nd, from 3 to 7 p.m., we have a community event called Celebrate Uniqueness. We're going to have international songs, folk dances, food. It's free and open to all from 3 to 7 p.m., and it's going to be at the YMCA of Glendale. The entire community, staff, and board members are welcome to attend and invited. So see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. If we don't have any additional comments, I'd like to carry on. We don't have any old business, so that brings me to new business item 707 North Pacific Avenue, PAPP-004330-2024, and I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, before we get to the case planner, I just want to bring up a couple things. So this is an appeal, and I just want to read from the Planning Commission rules. An affirmative vote of 3 members of the commission at minimum is needed to reverse, affirm, or modify the decision of the planning hearing officer or director of community development as identified in section 30.62.050. So we have 3 members here tonight. In the event that the commission is unable to garner 3 votes for a motion or motions, the item will be continued to the next regular commission agenda without further notice unless the commission continues the item to another meeting date. I wanted to bring that up. And then I just wanted to make a general announcement regarding appeals, which will depend on the outcome of this evening. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3062 of the GMC, the decision may be appealed to the City Council within 15 days of the date of the decision. For this item, today will be the date of the decision unless this gets continued. Anyone wishing to file an appeal must use the city's online permit portal to file the appeal, www.glendaleca.gov/permits. And for any additional information regarding the appeal process and submittal, including required fees, we ask that members of the public please contact the case planner. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lamberg for his presentation.
Thank you, my colleague, Ms. Izadi. My name is Alan Lamberg, and thank you, Chairperson Tarachian and Commissioners Nazarian and Fuentes. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm Alan Lamberg, and I'm the case planner for the project located in the Fremont Park neighborhood, north of downtown, and on the other side of the Ventura Freeway at 707 North Pacific Avenue, including its parking lot and driveway access at Burchett Street. The subject property and other commercial property in the vicinity are zoned C2, community commercial, with nearby to the north and west is a R1 low-density residential zone. Now, the applicant's proposal, as approved by the planning hearing officer, is that it was a request of a conditional use permit to establish a banquet hall with entertainment subject to the standards listed in Title V of the Glendale Municipal Code through adaptive reuse of a former retail building, including a mezzanine addition and an outdoor deck that faces Pacific Avenue and a drop-off pickup area. Just for clarification, the outdoor patio that was facing the parking lot in Burchett was removed as a condition of approval. Other concurrent requests were an administrative use permit to allow sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages in that zone, and an AB 2097 parking exception to allow 50 on-site parking spaces in lieu of the required 243. The AB 2097 will be amended for reasons explained in this presentation. Code requires in the C2 community commercial zone approval of a conditional use permit for a banquet hall, and that Title 5.16 references Title 5 for business licenses and regulations for entertainment business license, if applicable. The conditional use permit qualifies as a Class 1 existing facilities category exemption because the project involves a mezzanine addition that will not increase the structure's floor area by more than 2,500 square feet. And here we see the site plan existing and was proposed with the drop-off area and the new covered entry. And as you can see here, as originally proposed, this outdoor patio area is to be removed as a condition of approval. So the 6 parking spaces here will remain, and that will result in the facilities retaining its current and voluntarily provided 60 parking spaces. The building entry faces west and is situated near the front of Burchett Street, and a new enclosed outdoor deck faces Pacific Avenue, and an exterior remodel of the building and site must also undergo a separate design review process. The mezzanine, as indicated on the left side of the screen here, includes a 1,760 square foot addition for accessory office, and the main floor includes the commercial kitchen and a banquet room with approximately 4,800 square feet of assembly area for seating and viewing, and in the assembly area of the deck, the outdoor deck, is about 2,600 square feet. With the revised total of 7,400 square feet of assembly area and factoring 28.6 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet, the parking demand is currently 212 spaces. So I repeat for the record, what has changed since the planning hearing officer's approval is that the code now requires 212 spaces and that the site will provide 60 voluntarily provided spaces. The present building is a single-tenant, one-story with mezzanine commercial building constructed in 2017. It is the sole tenant in one building, formerly a retail pharmacy on the same 1.16-acre property, with two separate driveways on Burchett Street provide access to the parking lot and loading area of the property. In 2017, Burchett Street was widened to include a middle turning lane between the subject property and Pacific Avenue. In the basis of the planning hearing officer's decision, findings of fact were made to approve of the conditional use permit as follows: that the proposed use will be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan by ensuring the land use and zoning compatibility, adhering to the design and performance criteria, managing traffic and noise effectively, and providing beneficial commercial services while limiting disruption to the residential neighborhood. Noise control standards were considered and adhered to. Under Part B, that the use and the associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety or general welfare or the environment, as it aligns with the Glendale Police Department and California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control recommendations, which includes necessary security measures and meets conditions of approval to mitigate potential negative impacts. One condition required removal of an outdoor patio and to maintain the existing 60 parking spaces. Under Part C, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. As it is surrounded by less intensive commercial uses, it requires strict regulations and licensing and adheres to conditions of approval to minimize disruption and ensure harmonious development. Under Part D, that adequate and public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, public parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are and will be provided for the proposed use, including effective parking and traffic management measures to minimize impacts on the surrounding community. The planning hearing officer considered the application, applicable zoning and municipal code provisions, public comments, and oral and written testimony received at the hearing, and all evidence submitted. For the appellant's statement of error, these on your screen are your typical considerations that an appellant would submit to the Planning Commission. That the appellant claimed there are violations of the law or procedure, that the planning hearing officer exceeded their authority, failed to fulfill a mandatory duty, and or refused to hear or consider certain facts. In the application, the appellant stated not applicable whether insufficient evidence to support the decision and whether new evidence of material facts were not previously presented. In addition, the appellant stated additional procedural concerns. In the appellant's arguments, looking at the appellant's arguments and staff responses, for Part A, the appellant argues that approving the conditional use permit violates the Glendale noise element, which prohibits banquet facilities within 200 feet of a residential zone. Staff contends that although the noise element mentions the 200-foot restriction, it is not part of the Glendale Municipal Code. The enforceable noise standards are in GMC Title 8, Chapter 36, which does not include this restriction. Thus, the planning hearing officer did not violate any enforceable law in approving the conditional use permit. For Part B, the appellant argues that the planning hearing officer exceeded their authority by not adhering to the noise ordinance, which prohibits banquet facilities within 200 feet of residential areas without waivers, and contends that the PHO did not suggest sufficient noise mitigation. Staff clarifies that there is no existing rule restricting banquet facilities within 200 feet of residential areas, that the appellant's claim regarding insufficient noise mitigation does not indicate an overreach of authority, as the planning hearing officer has the discretion to impose conditions as necessary to align a conditional use permit with the zoning code's intent according to GMC section 30.42.020. Under Part C, The appellant claims that the planning hearing officer failed in their duty by not enforcing a 200-foot restriction on banquet halls and by not requiring additional noise mitigation measures. Staff notes that there is no provision restricting banquet halls within 200 feet of residences. The appellant is challenging whether conditions meet city standards and ordinances, including noise mitigation. The project's approval conditions aim to promote a balanced environment and minimize noise impact through measures such as compliance with noise limits, removal of the proposed patio, adherence to the noise control ordinance, regulated operations, security and management practices, noise containment, limits on live entertainment, and prevention of loitering. The planning hearing officer has the discretion to impose necessary conditions to align with public health, safety, and welfare standards. Under Part D, the appellant claims that the planning hearing officer ignored or failed to acknowledge their comment that the noise element prohibits banquet halls within 200 feet of residential zones. Staff states that the planning hearing officer considered all submitted evidence, including the appellant's arguments regarding the noise element. The restriction is not part of the Glendale Municipal Code and therefore cannot be enforced. And regarding the Part E and F, again, the applicant stated not applicable to the question of insufficient evidence to support decision and not applicable to the question of new evidence of material facts not previously presented. And lastly, under Part G, the additional concerns by the appellant provided additional facts related to the appeal. Under Part 1, G1, the appellant raised the issue of the noise ordinance's application to banquet facilities via email to the case planner and during the public hearing. The case planner, myself, addressed the appellant's noise concerns and forwarded the comments to the planning hearing officer. The planning hearing officer considered the appellant's statements in writing and during the public hearing, discussed noise concerns with the applicant, and incorporated appropriate conditions of approval in the decision letter. Number 2, G2, the applicant disclosed the proposed overflow parking at 516 Burchett Street late in the public hearing, limiting the opportunity for public response. During the public hearing, the applicant discussed overflow parking as part of their response. The applicant had received ministerial approval for an AB 2097 application, allowing the banquet hall to provide on-site parking, which is now currently 60 spaces, instead of the, at the time, 243, now required 212 parking spaces, which is required by code. The applicant stated that overflow parking at the 516 Burchett Street was still under consideration, with no lease agreement obtained at that time. Ongoing negotiations were mentioned, but not a finalized component of the project. If a lease agreement for overflow parking is obtained, it will be subject to review. The appellant's assertion does not constitute a procedural violation or overreach by the planning hearing officer, as no definitive decision or approval regarding overflow parking was made, and standard public comment procedures were followed. Lastly, staff recommendation is that public comments were received regarding this appeal, which are presented in the, at the end of the packet as an exhibit, and that no other city departments provided additional comments for this appeal. Given all the information presented here and in the staff report, and on the basis that the appellant's arguments rely on an unenforceable statement in the city's noise element and not in the Glendale Municipal Code, and that the planning hearing officer followed proper procedures, considered public comments, and imposed noise mitigating conditions. Therefore, staff recommends sustaining the planning hearing officer's approval of this conditional use permit case, PCUP 003300-2014. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions at this point in time, or would you like to hear the appellant and the applicant speak?
I'd like to hear the appellant.
Okay. So I don't have a speaking card from the appellant. I see the applicant and owner and several neighbors. So are we expecting Any representation in terms of a presentation from the appellant, and do we have anyone on the line? No worries. Can you please fill one out and just hand it up here, just for our processes, and then you're welcome to speak. You have 15 minutes.
Mr. Chair, while he's filling out the form, can I just ask staff quickly, again, could you give me the total square footage for the project?
For the, okay. Let's see, so, what I do have in the presentation was 7,600 square feet of viewing area combined for the banquet hall, in the interior and the outdoor patio, so 7,600 square foot total of seating and viewing area results in that parking calculation that we came up with. I'll need, if you want more information about the actual total square footage of the building, I can dig that up for you.
7,400. I got a 7,400 square foot number. Is
Right.
that
It's,
something?
here, I'll bring it up back on screen here. Under the
Because
floor,
the second floor addition, there was a square footage that said 1,400 square feet, and then it got changed to 1,700 square feet. So I'm just trying to get which one is
right.
the right one.
The 14 and okay. Yeah, I think, okay, that must have been referring to the
First
mezzanine.
floor and second floor, what's the total square footage?
Okay, so the mezzanine area, okay. I'll have to dig that up here. I have a lot of numbers I'm
Okay,
looking at.
you can
Okay.
come back later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to ask the appellant to come and speak. Please introduce yourself and provide your address, and you'll have 15 minutes to make your presentation.
Slide deck prepared, Mr. Lambert?
Yes. I'll bring the slide deck as well.
Will I need to operate that myself, or will I give you direction when to advance?
The remote right there should allow you to click through if it's not working.
Yes,
Or the
okay.
PowerPoint.
It's PDF.
You'll have to-
Okay, no problem. All right, here we go. Good evening, thank you, Mrs. Zade, thank you, council members, thank you, Mr. Lambert, for your patience, and, of course, good evening, thank you all for your patience and understanding. And my name is Adam Fleming, I live at 511 Burchett, I'm a resident and homeowner. I both live and work in Glendale. I'm very proud to call this city home. I'm very fortunate to call this city home. It's beautiful. Bear with me, I'm going to read off a script tonight just because I'm not used to public speaking, so please let me know if I'm going too fast or if I'm speaking too quickly. This appeal has been organized and sponsored by a coalition of homeowners and residents along the 500 block of Burchett and has been endorsed in signature by residents and local businesses of Burchett and many on our adjoining Kenilworth, Hahn, and Arden corridors. We have 42 signatures available for you guys. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are not opposed to the projected banquet hall. The property represents a valuable and challenging lot. Clients being a local business supports one of our key components of our city's general plan objectives. This opportunity generates jobs and revenue, supporting our city through permits. Most importantly, our neighborhood reactivates a space in our neighborhood that during its gap in residencies has been plagued by loitering, littering, and homelessness. What we're here to bring to the table tonight are challenges with a few specific conditions of use in hopes that we can find resolutions which do not inhibit the business but better shield the community from potential problems and maintain the healthy balance required by our general plan. Slide 2, please. A quick overview again. The project location is at 707 North Pacific. It represents a C2 commercial pocket surrounded to the north and west by a low-density R1 residential area and several businesses. The project plan includes adaptive reuse of an existing former retail facility and its adjoining parking lot. As Mr. Lambert noted in December, the portion of Burchett approaching the property to the west of Pacific was widened slightly in 2017, providing an additional turn lane on northbound onto Pacific. Dedicated lights were not added at that time. Slide number 3, please. The entrance to the parking lot consists of 2 driveways off the side street of Burchett. A highway on-ramp prohibits entry options from the main boulevard of Pacific. The primary entrance to the building faces west, away from the main thoroughfare of Pacific. This access point is the sole entrance permitted for customers by the applicant, condition number 31. It is here the client has identified passenger drop-off and vehicle collection through their valet services. Both facility entrance and driveway access to its lot are oriented toward the residential area, shown here in blue, to the north and west. Next slide, please. We're here tonight to talk specifically about concerns over the application of the general plan by way of the noise element. Now, the noise element was a study generated in 2008 and on city record as the current guidelines for best practice. Its topics define concerns and resolutions which maintain fundamental community health to support a general plan. Slide 5. California state law requires that each city and county adopt a general plan for physical development which expresses the community's development goals and policy. California Supreme Court identifies general plans as the charter to which planning agency judgments must follow. The ideologies of the current noise element, though not ordinances, are considerations of a compulsory general plan. As you're aware, to establish a conditional use permit, key findings of fact must be met. The Planning Commission has done a great job leveraging CUP conditions, and we thank you for what's on the applicant's current state. Nearly half of the 60 conditions cited in the application sustain objectives of the noise ordinance and element. I want to be very clear. We're not seeking to overturn the CUP opportunity. We're asking Council to consider several key concerns which are leaving our neighborhood exposed to severe challenges. This is an issue our entire community feels very passionate about, as you'll hear and see tonight. We've galvanized wide and vocal support to ensure protections from the impacts of this establishment's clientele. We want to provide the vendor opportunity to operate the business in good form and offer them the faith that they will follow the rules appropriately. Slide number 6, please. As noted in the staff report, the restriction of distance indicated in the noise element is not binding and represents a recommendation but not law. A reminder to Commission that 11 private R1 homes exist within this 200-foot boundary. Slide number 7. This slide brings our attention to a section of the banquet hall challenges. The first it identifies are noise-related problems relative to exterior environments, citing facility exits and parking lots are the largest disruptive factors. Slide number 8. Shown here are views from the property from Burchett Street. Note there is no barrier or protection between the neighborhood and the facility entrance or its driveways where egress and patron collection are to be handled. CUP findings of fact A and B protect the welfare of communities from conditions which diminish the quality of life or represent disruption. The orientation of this facility and its egresses promote neighborhood interaction. Vehicles dropping off and picking up customers, as well as customers queuing for vehicle collection, are fully unobstructed from the community. These establishments generally operated in the evenings with their activities terminating sometimes very late at night. How does commotion and disruption directed toward a neighborhood zone during nighttime periods when stronger noise ordinances restrictions are applied satisfy CUP findings A and B? Next slide, please. The client's AB 2907 permit provides parking exemption allowing 50 of Glendale Municipal Code's estimated now 212 required spaces on lot. The applicant has indicated with support of their valet services on lot that may be stacked, which results in nearly half of the potential spots remaining unaccounted for. Conditions 6 and 23 of the applicant's CUP notes no residential or Fremont Park parking shall be allowed for customers or employees of the venue. AB 2907 exemption does not overrule municipal code estimate, nor does it overrule conditional use terms, indicating the applicant must identify and leverage appropriate solutions for balancing that current volume. In the noise element mitigation techniques, the element recommends parking be established away from the affected community, attributing proximity disruption as a negative factor toward the welfare of residents. The tenant has expressed pursuit of a private business park adjacent to their lot at 516 Burchett, a proposal which indicates interference will encroach further into the R1 area and have greater impact than the applicant's lot itself. CUP findings of fact D requires parking spaces and traffic circulation be identified for the proper use in order for the CUP to be issued. No formal implementation of an appropriate solution has been indicated for an overflow volume as of the December hearing. Slide number 10, please. To help educate ourselves, we searched a little of existing banquet halls throughout Glendale, then narrowed it down to establishments adjacent to residential zones. Slide number 11. Many had some common themes, mainly parking entrance and exits as well as facility entrances were predominantly on main thoroughfares. The majority of these, including the applicant's lot, Los Feliz Boulevard establishment, slide number 12, shown here, though adjacent to private homes were facing away from them, the backs of the buildings fully protecting the residential zone in conflict. Slide 13, please. Though none as dramatic as our neighborhood directed at homes, several others do have side access. These pockets have been granted permit-only parking restrictions for truncated hours. Again, conditions 6 and 23 of the applicant's CUP notes no residential or Fremont Park parking shall be allowed for customers or employees of the venue. How do applicants differentiate between patrons who have approached the venue from public transportation or rideshare versus those who may have parked in the adjacent neighborhood or public park? It must not be incumbent upon the community members to track individuals. We ask for after-hour preferential permit parking moderation be considered for the 500 blocks of Burchett and Hahn and the community-adjacent strip of Kenilworth to enforce this requirement of the CUP. This will additionally discourage frequent gang and drifter activity in the neighborhood has been plagued by, generate revenue for our city's parking enforcement, and reduce administrative obligations of the client. Slide 14, please. Bear with me, this is peripherally related. Glendale has 3 tiers of mixed-use development. We have industrial, industrial commercial, and industrial commercial residential. I find it very interesting that banquet halls are only permitted in the first 2, not when residential is in the mix. Our little neighborhood represents one of those problematic fringe cases where 2 opposing zones butt up next to each other. The commercial applicants have done everything right. They are completely within their right to establish this business. Our neighborhood is terrified out of its wits. We're up against a lot of change. We have no idea how Fremont Park with its expanded facilities will play out. They have a new soccer field, a community center that has not been there before. We have no data to support the decision-making, how these things will interact. We now have the issue of a proposed drive-through across the street where Acapulco is. A week ago, City Council received over 100 emails and dozens of speakers opposed to the proposal your team received. All of this in one block. Now, neither of those community influencers are part of this CUP, but I guarantee they're going to affect welfare and business, including yours. It's our job in this room to look at the big picture. Next slide, please. CUPs are to be 2-year terms. The neighborhood is being targeted with seismic transformation. Private banquet halls are not the same as community centers. We're willing to observe and are optimistic that the Commission will advocate for balance supporting the general plan. We ask the 2-year term be upheld. Condition C of CUP's finding of facts require facilities not affect or conflict with adjacent uses of surrounding property. This is another condition which, despite the lack of environmental impact report, should not have passed gate. Findings of fact in this application have not been accurately applied as they relate to general plan goals. Local business, park patrons, and residents alike will be affected. Restoring the appropriate permit duration gives you the opportunity to respond before lasting community damage can occur. It grants us the opportunity for feedback, and it gives the clients the opportunity to adapt. Slide 16, please. In summary, we must evaluate this proposal's harmony with our general plan and ensure adherence to community and health be upheld. On behalf of myself and the entire community of Fremont Park, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Do we have any questions?
I just
Mr.
wanna
Fleming?
quickly ask,
If you don't mind, thank you.
yeah,
Yes,
you live in the area?
I do. I'm directly across the
Right,
street.
okay. I just wanted to ask, how long have you lived there?
I'm sorry, I didn't even mention it. 13 years.
And I wanted to ask some of you, how long have, some of you have been there for more than 15, 20?
4 years.
Yeah, okay.
Since 1968.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Just want to get an idea. Yeah.
Okay. I believe next, we have time for a rebuttal from the original applicant. There's a 15-minute period. I defer to staff because we have 2 speaker cards, one from the owner, one from the applicant. Are we to divide it half and half, or are we to give them the option?
It's 15 minutes total, and then they can divide it amongst themselves however they wish.
Okay.
I also wanted to offer up that, just as a point of order, that Mr. Fleming spoke for 10 minutes, so he had 5 minutes that he hadn't used. So if you want to consider that, if anybody else in his party would want to help, just wanted to mention that.
My question to that being, I mean, we have several cards from neighbors that are all going to get a chance to speak, so I think I'd like to keep it separate from the applicant and the appellant. So on that, why don't we welcome the applicant first? And please introduce yourself and state your address as well.
Absolutely. Hello, my name is Araz Parsijan. I want to thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, and staff for giving me the opportunity to speak and speak my case. So, all right, so I am the consultant, and the applicant is here as well, the business owner. On the first slide, I want to go over, there were a lot of good points brought up, but again, as staff mentioned, this was pretty clear-cut based on the CUP ordinance that is in place. So as far as the 200 feet is concerned, so if you notice, this is a document from 2002. And then the next slide will show you in 2006, the public dance area where it's a CUP process, and it does not require the 200, it does not, the 200 feet does not apply, basically. And as the appellant mentioned, it is a CUP process for the banquet hall, and based on those zonings, and which this project does fall under. Next slide. And as far as the 200 feet being mentioned as an ordinance, it's not an ordinance, it's a noise element. It's part of the noise element, which is not considered an ordinance, and it's not forcible. Next slide. So this slide shows in 2005 noise, the noise around where the darker blue shows 70 decibels. And moving forward, this is 20, no, back. Right next to it is 2030, which is a future date, but it goes every 25 years. It also shows there's not much change from the noise decibels that are exuded from, most importantly, the freeway. So basically, the freeway is super loud. Next slide. So this is the engineers, the mechanical engineer, what they did is they did a study to understand what the noise decibels are going to be from the inside and what you're going to hear outside. So instead of using the banquet hall, which is at 80 decibels, they went ahead and went a little bit more aggressive. So they used a rock concert. If you can see, it's right underneath the 100. It's the second ear from the bottom up. The 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth item down says rock concert at 110 decibels. So based on that, can we get the next slide, please? We can move on to the next slide. One more. So this I want to mention is the exterior sound that you're going to be hearing for a residential home, somebody in their backyard. The city of Glendale allows you to have 65 decibels. So basically, if your neighbors are in the backyard making noise, you're at 65 decibels. From the interior, it's 45. You shouldn't be hearing more than 45 decibels out from the neighbor's house. So if the adjacent neighbor is loud, this is the ordinance that the sound ordinance that is allowed. Next slide. All right. So the appellant is 146.14 feet away from the opening of the entrance of the facility, of the banquet hall. Next slide. So as shown earlier, the entrance is on the top right. That's where the 140 feet was pointing to. And if you see, that's a double door that opens up to the foyer area. And then there's another cinder block dividing the banquet hall where the sound is going to be amplified with double doors that is 95% of the time closed. So, well, it's the only time it's open is when there's somebody entering or exiting the banquet hall. And the outside doors are usually always closed as well, only from when somebody enters and closes. And once the event does start, there's no reason for anybody to go out that way because, again, we have a patio towards Pacific. That's where, if they're going to come out for fresh air, that's where they're going to be using. And the only time they should be exiting that way is when they're going to be entering or leaving. So, I just want to mention, if you see the sideways, like the wall is cut in half. So it's a CMU wall, 8 inches, very thick, and concrete inside it with rebar. That itself is a huge soundproof itself. But on top of that, what the applicant has done is there's another layer that's going to be right between the cinder block, the insulation, and then the drywall. So that is a huge impact for, where it won't let the noise come out whatsoever. If you can't, you can barely hear anything if you stand on the other side of the wall and there's a rock concert inside. So, and I'm going to get to the rock concert and the decibels. It's going to be pretty fun. So let's go out to the next slide. Okay, so these are the steps that the mechanical engineer took to identify. This is a program that they use. This is approved by the state and the industry that they're in. So what happens is he put in 110 decibels, and then when you jump to the next slide, it shows the square footage or the size of the room, which is 85 by 155 feet and 85 by 155 and 30 feet high ceilings. And moving to the step 3, they plug in all the different materials used for the wall and for how the shell is encased for the building. And when they run the report, you can see that it comes out with, the community wall shows 10 decibels. So basically, if you're standing 10 feet in front of the building, you're going to only hear 10 decibels of sound coming from the inside of the building. And this is based on a rock concert, which is 110. A banquet hall usually is at around 75 to 80. And as you can see on the results, it's most of the outdoor noise all the way to the neighbors, the first home, is basically going to disseminate. You're not going to even hear anything. Having said that, just a reminder, if you go to the next slide. No, not the other one. I think that's fine. So I'll just talk about it. So as far as the freeway is concerned, as mentioned on the dark blue area, the freeways usually are 70 plus. No. If we go back to the back slides, go back on the slides. One more. Okay. Yeah, so if it says the dark area, it's 70 decibels. CNELs are very much decibels and over. So the reason for that is because the 134 runs right next to the property where the banquet hall is proposed, and the neighborhood itself is also affected by the noise of the freeway. And we all know if we own or live next to the freeway, it's quite loud. I've personally lived next to a freeway, and it's not easy. I understand. So quite frankly, the 10 decibels standing 10 feet outside it doesn't even compare to the sound of the decibels that are going to be heard. I'm here to answer more questions, but as far as the parking is concerned, I want to bring up the business owner applicant to discuss the parking, which is, as you can see on this slide, it is a staggered parking, a tandem parking, where what happens is as they come in, valet has a process in place where they park the vehicles, and they're able to fit. Abraham, you want to come up and discuss the details of this? And this is a professional valet company that they've been using for many years, and they've done this study based on the lot available. And the other thing I want to mention, the occupancy for the banquet hall is going to be 263 people. So based on the 263 people, with ride sharing and people coming to an event together, they're not going to be using that many cars. So I understand they're based on the square footage and the mezzanine and everything, but the congregation area, which is the number of people that are going to be coming in, there's no more than 263 people that are going to be allowed. So based on that, I've been told by the applicant that usually it's anywhere from 25 to 30% of individuals who attend an event at this facility are going to be bringing their vehicles. The rest usually are, they drive together or ride share. I personally, when I go to an event, I don't drive anymore because if you consume alcohol, you just don't want to do that. Ride sharing is so much easier, and that's why parking overall has been kind of reduced in the industry. And since he has all the experience, he'll speak a little bit more about that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abraham. Last name Stepanian. Thank you for having me. Just RS pretty much covered all the aspects based on the appeal I'm seeing today. I just want to chime in my 2 cents. Again, having to do with parking, there's a study been done. We've been in business for over 6 years, and people think just because you have 50 spots, that means 50 individual cars are going to park. That's never the case with this type of business. We're not a Rite Aid where people come in slowly just get out. So this is an example of how we would actually use the lot, and this is how we currently have a very similar lot, and this is exactly what we do every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we've been in business for over 6 years. So we've yet to have any sort of valet issue. That being said, this is particularly for 110 spots. We're never going to use those spots. Maximum if we have 250 guests. Our average guest parties are between 150 to 200. We only cater to about 90% luxury wedding. This is not a spot where people come in and party. It's a banquet hall that caters to people that are getting married. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You can imagine the money they spent on their wedding. So it's a completely different kind of party. It's not a kids gathering up in a banquet hall and having a party and driving their cars in. Just to clarify the type of event space we're aiming to open. So currently, what I'm saying, I have facts to be proven. Just go, you can always look at the current business we have. Again, we've been operating for over 6 years now. We have never had a noise complaint. We have never got a valet complaint or a neighbor complaint or a police complaint in the 6 years we've been in business. And that is because of the type of I would say type of events we cater to. So parking, pretty much I wanted to chime in. And then when it comes to the noise, the building itself is already top-notch noise, multi-layered. But on top of that, when it comes to the interior design, we are gonna use another layer of construction material that's gonna soundproof. So
Plaster or something?
there's so many things nowadays where we are using top-notch products, which will definitely, again, just help the noise factor, which is currently never going to be an issue, as I mentioned before. Thank you so much for having me.
That's pretty much all we have. If you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you both very much for your time. I'd like to open it for any questions.
Can we ask them a couple of questions?
Yeah, of course, Commissioner, go ahead.
I was just wondering, where's your current business? You mentioned you had it for 6 years.
Oh, it's Grand Venue on Los Feliz. in
It's
Los
on
Angeles.
3070 Los Feliz Boulevard. It's called Grand Venue
Thank
It's
you.
right on the outskirt of Glendale.
on
Thank
Los
you.
Feliz.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fuentes. So we have one more question.
Few more questions, just for clarification.
No worries.
Yes. What's the occupancy or capacity proposed for this banquet hall?
I believe it's 256, if I'm not mistaken.
263.
260. And what's your proposed hours of operation?
From,
Based on the CUP, it's,
Speak to the microphone.
based on the CUP, it's
2 a.m.
it's from 12 noon to 2 a.m.
So,
That's preparation time. It's not that when the party actually, or the event
you're going to
starts.
be open 7 days a week?
No, it's usually Friday and Saturdays, rarely Sundays.
Fridays and Saturdays.
Yes.
How about the restaurant that you're going to have in there?
So this is not a public restaurant. The restaurant, the kitchen is only for there to cater to the wedding venue that, the people that rent the venue. We provide the food. We're not a publicly open kitchen. It's
So
only.
you're not going to be open to the public
No.
as a restaurant?
It's not a restaurant. So our events typically take place Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Monday through Thursdays is pretty quiet. And then typically we start around 7 p.m. We end around 1 a.m. This is, I'm speaking average based on what I've seen on an average daily.
So this business is operating probably 20%, 25% of the time. It's the rest of the time, it's very quiet. There's always security guard on duty, and during the events, you usually has minimum of 4 security guards on duty. Was that?
They're armed.
The armed security guards always
Security
ready
guard.
to go. And what I've seen, what they do is there's a security guard right in front of the door where the main entrance and exit is, and they open the door and make sure the door closes immediately.
You're saying most of the times you're going to be not operating on a Monday to,
No.
what if I get
might be
married
an
and I
event if-
wanted a reception on a Monday or a
Sure, if
Tuesday?
that- if
So
you
you're going to
do-
open?
If there is somebody that requires it, yeah, they will do the
Yeah,
event, but
so-
it's very rare. How often does that happen? For this event?
Unfortunately, nobody wants to get married on a Monday so far, so.
I do, I may.
The thing is, this venue is not cheap. It's pretty expensive, so people really don't
Yeah, I'm
do
trying
events
to
here.
get to the scope really of your operation, number of days, hours, occupancy,
So
and
if
all
you
that.
see similar venues within Glendale, they pretty much are the same. Once in a while, you might see a day event, but on weeknights, very rare.
And you're going to be open until 2 a.m.? Is
Yes,
that-
2 a.m.
Okay.
Commissioner Fuentes,
Thank you.
per the conditions of approval that staff has put up, the hours would be 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays and up until 12 midnight the rest of the week.
That's the condition, but I wanted to hear from them specifically that.
Well, he's the expert at it because he runs the business and he's been doing this for
Yeah.
years. And again, they've operated and they've not have any issues. The neighbors actually love them. And, you know, I understand there's opposition towards
no
this.
doubt.
Yeah, there's opposition for this, but before you know it, everyone's going to love this guy.
Are
He's
you
known.
closing your Los Feliz, or are you maintaining that and then this one?
We're actually maintaining it.
Both?
Yes.
Okay,
The other one's called Grand Venue. This one's going to be called Grand Manor.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have some questions as well. My apologies. You guys are eager to see.
Don't go until we release you.
As far as the interior soundproofing, when it comes to the construction, was that purely a consideration on your end, or is that something you worked closely with city staff and the PHO to decide? Just out of
So
curiosity.
the architect is Alan Malekian. He's very much and has a great knowledge of what's required. That is in part to mitigate the sound majority of it, and also temperature-wise as well, because it does, for a space like that, it does require a lot of the AC to be used for a long period of time to cool the place. So those are all brought into, that's a factor. And yeah, so it's done because they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And at the same time, cost savings as well.
Okay, and then there were a few mentions in our staff report and again in the staff presentation as far as a prospective lease for overflow parking. Could you guys just touch on any relevant updates there? Is there any
Sure.
progress?
Actually, the only reason we haven't really, there's interest. It's a customer service thing. If your guests are coming and they want a valet, we're not he never says, no, we're closed, there's no more valet. That's not part, that doesn't work. So he has a Plan B, Plan C. I'm sure the adjacent property is a great spot for it, but we can't really do anything moving forward until we are 100% sure that the CUP is approved, but we don't have any other appeals, so we can go ahead and proceed with the business side of things and making sure a lease is signed or whatever, if once it comes to that point. But based on the count that the applicant has, they're not really going to be needing it. With tandem parking, there's plenty of parking space available, and with the application of AB 2097, that's also going to reduce the parking amount.
And just by the same token, have there been any discussions with the city as far as a parking arrangement at the nearby park in hours that are not in operation?
No, the nearby park is quite far, but the park is not being considered now.
Okay, I only bring it up for valet purposes, obviously not for, you know,
Yeah,
visitors to
absolutely.
the property
And yeah,
to park
another
and
thing
walk.
is, during the planning hearing, it was, the neighborhood had concerns that people will be parking on the street, and the valet is not paid for, so there's nobody that's going to park on the street. They're going to drive into the valet, and they're going to be valeted. A lot of the venues do charge, but this is a service that they provide. So yeah, they're not going to be parking on the street. And the other thing that we're going to want to propose is, even though the area where the patio was eliminated, we sent another slide. You can zoom in. That area, if we can consider bringing back, this is a valet waiting area. So our goal is to make sure that people wait there, confined in a area where there's going to be some walls and some trees where they can stay there until their car is available for them to walk out and leave. And if you see the access to there, it's not from inside the venue. You have to come outside to go in. So it's not going to be appealing for that to be, the concern was they're going to have parties in that patio, but that wasn't the point. The other side is a larger space where people are going to be doing outdoor resting just to get fresh air. But this side was strictly for, it was being considered for a valet holding area. The people wait there, so they're not on the streets and on the sidewalk. So the goal, they've even considered that they don't want people on the street. And it's a safety issue as well. If people are on the street, cars are driving by, valet personnel are bringing the cars around. They don't want people to get injured. So that's why they had that, it showed patio, but it's actually a valet waiting area. And if, again, once, if you can go back to that slide, the only way to enter is from that one door right by the main entrance.
Thank you, very helpful. One last question on my end. I understand that there won't be a case where people that come to the property are parking on the street, but I think part of the concern is also the valet employees essentially parking cars on the street in the unlikely event there's an overflow. So like, if there's no lease in place, what are you doing to kind of mitigate that from happening? Are you not allowing it altogether?
Well, there's no lease in place at this time because that we don't know which way we're going. Once the project is 100% approved and we're ready to go, those leases and those discussions will start. Well, the discussions have started. It just nothing has been secured because we're not going to get into a lease and that we don't have a project yet.
And other than what he's saying is, because our current study shows we do have sufficient parking, even if like employees counted, us counted, because we've done the study. Unfortunately, the first hearing we hadn't done the study because I didn't know this was be an issue. So after I've heard the neighbors' complaints, we did an actual study. So as things continue, if we ever feel like we need more space, which I just don't see it yet, 100% we'll find the option B and a C, because it's at the end of the day, it's valet. If it's not the lot next to us, we'll find another lot, just for the extra, let's say, 10 cars that might come in. Make sense? But currently speaking, with all the studies we've done, with the currently being in business for 5 years, we don't see how that's going to be an issue.
But Chair Charachian, one thing I want to mention is if you drive by Burchett, there's never any place to park. A couple of times I've tried to use the Starbucks there, I quit. I just went somewhere else because there's just nowhere to park ever, even the sideway parking that's there. So the street is already full, and the residents, they have the right to park in their front of the house. So the practice is they don't park, even in their other venues, they do not park on the street. And they always find alternative parking spaces and make it work. Because again, it's a customer service issue. If the parking is not available, valet is not available, it just diminishes the brand.
And
Thank you.
daytime, we're open to making this offer. If the residents want to park on our lot, they're more than welcome to. We can maybe think of a system where they hang something from the car that says our name of the business, and they can use our lot throughout the day. We have no issues kind of with letting them park.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Welcome, guys.
Go ahead.
I have some questions for the staff. Did you get the square footage?
Affirmative, Madam Commissioner, yes. Thanks to my colleague, Ms. Azadi, she was able to locate the figures we're looking for. So for the actual total, the existing square footage of the facility, the floor area of the existing building is about 13,688 square feet. That's listed on the plan set there. The mezzanine addition is 1,469 square feet. So when I mentioned 1,700, that was a typo on my part. That 7's a typo. So the addition of the mezzanine is 1,470 square feet, which would bring the total to 15,191 square feet. That's the entire facility floor area. But when we count for parking calculations by code, we look at the seating and viewing area, and that's why we mentioned 4,800 for the interior of the banquet hall in the actual seating and viewing area, plus 2,600 in the outdoor deck, and that's where we get those figures from.
Okay. In the different departments or sections comment, there was a comment from code enforcement regarding an enforcement case. Can you just give me a little background on that?
Yeah, long story short, before the application for conditional use permit, there was a question, there was an inquiry, an inspector, there appeared to be some activity at the vacant building, and so they wanted to make sure that whatever activity as far as potential construction or changing of use, that they wanted to make sure they got their permits. So Code Enforcement Neighborhood Services filed a code case instructing the applicant to make sure to get their permits in order, and that's what led to the follow-up to the conditional use permit application and the permits for tenant improvement.
And that's been cleared, or?
Yeah, I believe I could double check, but I think because that they've sought to get the permits that they need, that effectively will resolve the code case in question.
Okay. And, okay, that's it. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, but I can wait till after I guess, all the public speak, so.
It's up to you. I mean, we can either introduce a few questions to staff now, or I'm going to open it to the public, and then the appellant and applicant will both have an additional 5 minutes to speak. We'll close the public hearing, and then we can ask staff again at the end. So it's
Let's
up to
do
you.
that. Yeah, I think I can wait, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, I have several speaking cards, so I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Do we have any callers, just out of curiosity?
Yes, we had one caller at least earlier waiting. We have two currently.
Okay. Why don't we start with those that are in attendance, and then we'll come back to the callers at the end. So I have speaker Jackie Gish. May you please come up and introduce yourself and give your address, please? And
I
you'll
apologize, sorry. Will it be 3 or 5 minutes for the 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Don't have a big timer here, so I can tell how long it's been, huh? I'm Jackie Gish. I don't live near there. I live in Glen Oaks Canyon, but my sister lives on the corner of Burchett and Columbus. I wanted to talk about the Glendale Municipal Code parts. that have been mentioned a number of times. Part B is, quote, "that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment," unquote. However, noise, especially late at night, is detrimental. Now, they've talked a lot about shielding the noise from inside, but the cars and people getting into their cars and standing in this waiting area and stuff are all going to be outside. There is no shielding at that point. The cars are going to make their noises that they're going to make, and that's definitely really close to all these residents that you're going to hear from later. Number C, quote, "that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property." However, again, the noise in the cars parking in front of nearby residents, they say they'll never park a car on the street. They can't control everybody that's going to come in there, and they can't be absolutely certain they're going to go into the driveway and park. So that's still going to be something that's, who's going to monitor that? If they get parking permits for the people that live there, and then there's a car that doesn't have one, then the police could ticket that person, and that would help. But without something like that, what's to prevent somebody from doing that? And if it's restricted there and their lot is somehow full, or people don't want to be in this stacked parking, the only time I've ever done stacked parking is Hollywood Bowl, and it's a disaster trying to get out at the end. I don't know how that's all going to happen with stacked parking. I also don't understand for sure the occupancy. Does that include their staff? Does that include their valet people and how many cars they've got and where are they going to park? Where's their staff going to park? All of that kind of stuff. I don't think that's been really, really addressed. And then the concern is if all the region right there is all congested, they'll go across the Pacific, and they'll try to park on Burchett across the Pacific or in other areas, all the different ways. And D is that adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. So AB 2097 has been called here because eventually the BRT is going to run on Glen Oaks, but eventually is like 3 years from now. And I can't imagine banquet goers using dressed up things and walking 3 blocks and taking the bus, which is not going to run at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Ms. Gish. Our next speaker is Kathleen Middlebrooks.
Good evening. I live at 534 Han, so I'm on the block that's on the other side of Burchett. My concern really is the general safety. As the appellant mentioned, we have no idea what the impact is of this park opening, but I do know with the soccer field and several other things that are coming, that means the summertime it's going to be much more used. There's going to be a lot more parking issues, a lot more traffic congestion. For myself, I live on a one-way street on Han, and it's a daily occurrence that 12 or 13 people drive the wrong way on the one-way street. My concern is once this park gets full and people are starting to walk and trying to find parking, and as they're trying to find parking on Burchett and are waiting for valet, what happens to all the people that are coming the other direction from Kenilworth, from Patterson, around the park? They're going to hit all of these people coming into this banquet, and that street is not very wide on Burchett. I know they say, oh yeah, it's been expanded. Well, it's been expanded for the Starbucks and the Rite Aid area only. The rest of the street is very narrow on Burchett. So again, I have the question of what's going to happen on the one-way street. People are going to be coming down Han the wrong way all the time, especially on a Friday and a Saturday night when they get agitated and they can't get around the park. It's going to happen. And that's my concern, is how many people are going to have car accidents, going to be interfering with kids, older people go into the park that are just going to be impatient and hit somebody. So, and as everybody else has said, the parking is an issue. The parking is an issue now because the grocery store, Big Square, uses my street. The office building across the street uses our street. It's going to be an issue. But Once that park happens, we have no data to tell us how many people are going to be at that park every evening, especially in the summertime, and it's going to be a problem. So, thank you.
Thank you. For the next speaker, I have Christy Light.
I live at 667 Patterson Avenue, so right next to the park. So the big concern that I have is really not one that they've addressed. I'm not even concerned about the music and noise inside the facility. I'm concerned about traffic. That particular intersection at Pacific is already a nightmare. So when In-N-Out opens, it's going to be incredibly difficult. In all likelihood, people will be searching for alternative ways to get to the venue because they won't be able to pass for several months at In-N-Out. It's already a nightmare, and you guys know the one that exists is a nightmare. So great, they'll be super successful, but that means that the side streets, as people are trying to find alternative paths, are going to be busy. The other thing is the park closes at 10. So noise drops substantially in the neighborhood at 10. We don't have traffic, we don't have cars, we don't have slamming doors. So now we will, midnight, 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And believe me, when that happens now, it's very noticeable. We have many calls to the police department to clear people out of the park after 10 because it's very easy to hear them because there's not a lot of noise. So another 120 cars at 2 o'clock in the morning for that little tiny neighborhood, it's rough.
Thank you. Next, we have Marty Graves. And can I ask staff to restart the timer, please, for every speaker? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marty Graves, and I live at 521 Burchett Street in Glendale. I've owned the property, I've lived there since 1968, but I've owned the property since 1978. As the Neighborhood Watch block captain for many years, I'm acutely aware of all of the issues we have had with traffic, parking, noise, and safety concerns. These concerns include the following. Parking. The proposal indicates an exception to its under-supported parking lot. The request of a parking exception that would only allow 50 spaces instead of the 243 is unreasonable. There is a lack of parking as defined in the permits, causing a reliance on surface streets and/or private and neighborhood parking. This would increase the parking congestion in an already overburdened neighborhood. We also have no idea, again, this is what Mr. Fleming said, we also have no idea how the reopening of Fremont Park with its expanded facilities will affect this situation. We also now have the issue of a proposed drive-through at the site of the Acapulco restaurant. Last week, the City Council received more than 100 emails, and dozens of speakers from our neighborhood and adjacent neighborhoods spoke in opposition to this project. Even though this project is not part of the CUP, it will undoubtedly affect the applicant's business and have a very negative effect on the quality of our lives. Traffic. Both Burchett and Hahn Streets have had significant traffic issues for many years. In Section A of Findings and Facts, it says that the proposal aligns with the circulation element by not increasing traffic levels beyond current levels. This is totally false and ludicrous because increased traffic from the banquet hall is going to create unsafe conditions for residents and pedestrians alike. The proposal also states that Pacific Avenue, a major arterial, can handle heavy traffic volumes, while Burchett Street supports residential needs with low traffic volumes and a wide roadway for a middle turn lane. This statement is also totally untrue. Pacific can barely handle the current level of traffic. Burchett Street certainly does not have low traffic volumes, and it is a very narrow street. I'm not going to say too much about noise issues because that's been spoken about a lot, but one of my questions is about the, let's see, wait a minute, I'm getting lost here. What about the parking lot noise? I mean, maybe there isn't going to be noise coming from the inside, but there is going to be a lot of noise coming from the parking lot with door slamming and that kind of thing. Security and safety concerns. Dr. Gish spoke to this, but I'm going to repeat. The use in the required findings of Part 4, Part B, the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to public health and safety, the general welfare of the environment. This is totally ridiculous because increased traffic and traffic emissions, along with smoking in outdoor spaces that have no roofs to contain cigarette smoke, will definitely be harmful to the safety and general welfare of our neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Grape. Next card I have is for Art Caribbean.
Hi, my name is Art Caribbean at 536 Burchett Street. Okay, as far as business, it's good for city, for everybody, yes. As far as our residents at 500 Burchett, we are actually losing the value of our homes, our properties, and we are losing also the, okay, just, I don't want to be angry. This is done already. We all know already this is done. They've been already working for months, okay? So why did you call us here? And this is the second time? I don't know. But I myself, I live in Glendale over 30 years, 32, 33 years. We go to Bunkie Halls, definitely. We have weddings too, family, friends, and all that, right? And I'm trying to not to go to Valley and give $20, $25 to them and let some young guy drive my car, right? I rather prefer to park somewhere on the street, as they will do. They won't have control on that. They won't have control. And as customer, you know what? Get in and pay $20 for nothing. Just, you know what? You know what I mean? So in this case, we are actually having not only noise issue, then whatever traffic issue, but huge issue with our parking spaces. So again, this is done deal already. They are working, as I said before, on the property. What is our chance to get a residential parking permit? Parking permit just for us, for 500 Burchett Street. What? You can give them permission to bother us, but you cannot give us parking permit? Don't let them park in front of our streets. We're paying taxes, right? We do. What are the chances? Just tell us.
We can address some of it with staff at the conclusion of the meeting, but it's not a back and forth between us and the public. But you know, what you're proposing is not really under the purview of the Planning Commission in this hearing. But I'll have staff address it at a later point in this meeting. You have my word on that.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Kins.
She left.
Okay.
Could I speak?
Well, I believe you already spoke.
I did,
I'd like to just give everyone else a chance to speak, including the callers, and then, you know, I'll ask my commissioners to. I understand and appreciate that. Thank you. The next speaker is Scott Gerhard.
I'm not going to use my full 3 minutes here because most of what I wanted to say has been addressed. And I actually want to commend the applicant for addressing some things in ways that I wouldn't have thought of. And but there's a few other things. I'm a little curious on the parking, which I know it's not up right now. Like spots 96, 97, 98, all in that area roughly. What happens when they want to leave and they've got like 5, 6 cars in front of them and 5, 6 cars behind them and cars to the left and cars to the right? Like that just doesn't seem particularly, like it's easy to put it on a map, but when you actually get to the point of dealing with this in reality, I just can't see how that would be even possible. They've got to have a lot fewer actual parking spaces. I mean, just because you can fit it doesn't mean it's going to work. Also, the one thing they can't address is traffic. I live at 430 Burchett, so I'm right near that intersection of Pacific and Glendale, and it's often a nightmare. I actually ride a scooter to work, partially because I work really close, and partially because I don't want to lose my parking spot on the street. There's a lot of cars around there. I generally avoid Pacific because I don't want to die. And with the traffic the way it is there, you add this, you're going to have traffic that is way backed up. There is no turn lane on Pacific to get onto Burchett. So you're going to have traffic that backs up beyond the freeway entrance if they have this. I think it's great that they want to do this. Unfortunately, this just isn't the right location for it. Just like In-N-Out wasn't the right location, this is a small residential.
Just stay away.
I apologize. We just got a call from GTV6. You're a little bit too close to the mic. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I like the idea, but in practicality, the traffic's going to be an absolute nightmare. Maybe if there was a turn lane on Pacific, but I mean, they just can't address some of the things that aren't in their control, and those are the things that make this not a good project for this area. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker card I have is for Amber Avinez. Apologies if I mispronounced the name.
All good, thank you. Thank you for your time. I live at 430 Burchett Street. I'm on the other side of Pacific, and a couple of things that have been addressed here, so not to be repetitive. I think it would be wonderful to give the folks on the 500 block parking permits, but I can tell you when I go into places like West Hollywood who have parking permit areas, all I do is expand my search to surrounding areas. So if you're looking at issuing permits on the 500 block, you need to look at Hahn, you need to look at Patterson, you need to look at Arden, you need to look at Burchett on the other side of Pacific, because if people are going to park on the street, they're just going to go further out. Also, the applicant has said, well, if there's overflow, we'll figure that out. We haven't had conversations. We don't have anything concrete. Once they get approved, they can do what they need to. They can do what they want to. They're not beholden to come back and say, Mother, may I? So they could potentially have their overflow lot be at Acapulco's, because that's a big lot. Then you have people crossing the streets back and forth with additional traffic into the neighboring neighborhood, and those cars going back and forth, so you're increasing traffic across that intersection, going across Pacific on Burchett. Also, too, the fact that they keep addressing inside noise and not outside noise. Also, lights. All of those headlights going into these poor people's living rooms and their bedrooms at 2 a.m. as 200 or 100, however many hundred cars exit, and having those lights going into their homes. That's just not okay. And they said that the neighbors love them on Los Feliz. Based on the own pictures that they showed, the entrance to that place is on Los Feliz. The building is high, facing the neighborhood. The neighborhood doesn't see those people coming and going. So I'm sure they don't care. That is entrance on a main street. This is not an entrance on a main street. It's entrance on a residential neighborhood where people are trying to rest on their weekends, spend time with family dinners, watch a movie. And to say that we're all gonna love them, maybe if the entrance was different, maybe if the setup was different, and as Scott just brought up, the turning, all those people arriving, 200 people, 100 people coming at the same time, having to turn into that, leaving at the same time, all those lights and all that noise, it's just not okay for a residential neighborhood. These people who live here, we choose to live here because of a good quality of life that we're not getting in other neighborhoods. Others come in and they say, oh, well, we want to offer this for people who are coming in from other areas. It's not even a service to our community. The Rite Aid, when I moved in here 5 years ago, was a service to the community. You could go there and you could get a Band-Aid. You could go there and get a prescription filled. This is not a service to the community. It's a service to the owner of that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have some callers. I'd like to give our callers 3 minutes each to speak if they're still on the line.
Affirmative. We have 2 callers on the line. I'm going to bring up Alex Bagsarian. You are on the air, please, for your 3-minute comment.
Hello. We moved to this neighborhood just a few months ago, and the previous neighborhood that we moved from was pretty heavy on traffic and also parking. You are coming from work tired during the night, and you had to go around the street 20-30 minutes until you find the parking, and that's the real number I'm giving you. That's why bringing more cars to the street needs to be regulated, which means giving parking passes most likely to the neighborhood people. And for the restaurant owners, what is they make sure that the valley, they don't park on the street. They just kind of keep the word that it's not going to be like that. Other than that, that's the main problem, I think. I mean, if they don't park on the street, other than that, I mean, that's the main problem. So it's just the parking issue on the streets. It should be addressed, I think. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, and next on the line is Christopher Planchik. Christopher Planchik, thank you. We're on the line for your 3-minute comment, please. Christopher Planchik, are you on the line? Once again, Christopher Planchik, you are on the air right now. Can you please proceed with your 3-minute comment? Apparently, there might be some technical difficulty on that end. We'll see if the caller calls back. I'm going to drop the call. Okay. All right.
Have late comers. Do they want to speak?
Yeah. To anyone that came late and hasn't spoken yet, would they like to submit any speaking cards and have an opportunity to speak?
We're good.
No? Okay. Is it possible, if we go to the applicant and then the appellant per order of our appeal hearings, and if the caller calls back, we can hear it at the very end?
I have a note here from Sophie. She says that they are calling now, so they might come back on the line, the caller who just called.
Okay.
But, so your chair, go ahead.
They're calling as in they're on the line right now, and we can go
Not
ahead?
yet.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'd like to just proceed. The applicant will have 5 minutes to address any of the commentary that was stated, so.
Okay, so just want to address the valet. These cars are parked, so once they're parked, they're not making any noise. I understand that the concern is doors opening or closing. Unfortunately, whatever other business that comes there, it's going to be the same situation with doors opening and closing. Unfortunately, we're at a point where we can't really sign a lease until we can actually figure out where we're going with this. So as far as, again, we're going to drop the ball, we're not going to care. No, that's not true. Again, there are properties adjacent and also other locations that there's a plan A, plan B, plan C. So once we come to that, we will be working with the owner will be working with the landlords, whomever, to address that. Other concerns, if anything else you want me to address, but this is pretty much everything has been addressed, and it's a very organized and clean operation that they have, and they conduct their business to a point where customer service is utmost importance. So, is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to add, I've heard that people say 200 cars coming in, 200 cars coming out. Once again, that's never going to be the case. Also, when they're saying cars coming at the same time, we've yet have to see an event. Nobody ever comes to an event at the same time. So cars are scattered. Let's say the invitation says 6 p.m. Between 6 to 8 p.m. is when you would see people coming in. When people leave, nobody ever leaves at the same time. As the party is continuing, people kind of randomly just get up and go. You're never going to even notice who's leaving and who's not. But the idea would be by, let's say, 1:30 a.m., whoever's left would get up and go just because of the time issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zarn, go ahead.
I just have one question for you. Since you mentioned about, no worries. You mentioned about offering parking to residents of 500 within your
Yes.
lot during weekday, maybe Monday, Tuesday through Thursday. Is that offer on the table and something we can add to the condition later on if we choose to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have 5 minutes then for the appellant, if they would like to come back and address anything that was stated in the public hearing.
Also, we do have one caller on the line as well. They get back on. It's a different person, though.
We can take the call right now, and then we'll come to the appellant at the very end.
Okay. So we have on the line Harvin Gregorison for your 3-minute comment, please.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Please speak up if you can.
Yeah. Regarding that next.
I'm sorry, sir, can you please mute your TV so we can hear you? Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. As far as the adjacent parking that Aras, a couple of times you mentioned that they are waiting till they hear from you guys that you're going to give them 100% okay for their business, and then they're going to go to next door and ask for leasing that area for their parking, for valet parking. I just got a call from the owner, a part owner, Sam Manukian, which Aras knows him very well, that he is refusing and rejecting their offer for using their parking. I just got that call from them. So please, that Plan B, in order to park adjacent and using the adjacent parking as a parking lot, it's not on the table anymore. So if Aras and the applicant wants to find some other place that's different, but if they are putting their mind to use next door, it's gone. I just received a call from Manukian Sam, which, how I said, Aras knows him very well. So thank you. That's all I want to say for this 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No other callers.
Thank you very much. As to the appellant, you're welcome to come up. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Again, counsel, for your presentation, very thorough. I do want to clarify that freeway sound is loud in the area. It comes with the territory. We're right next to it. Freeway sound is not the same as patron-generated sound. They are separately governed by the ordinance, and just because there's a volume of sound coming from the freeway doesn't enable them to generate an additional volume of sound from a different source. I also want to address we had an interesting comment about the sort of the local traffic, particularly early in the evenings. Starbucks, which is on the corner, is a quick turnaround establishment, but it does tend to bottleneck quite a bit. We have a lot of cars which will park and block Burchett. This is, again, not the CUP or not the applicant's concern and the concern of the CUP here tonight, but it will definitely bottleneck that entrance and exit when patrons are trying to get in between 6 and 8, as they mentioned. We're interested in what the patio wall height is, and if all patrons leave at the same time, does that patio support all 263 patrons standing outside? Does that actually afford us appropriate sound blocking at 2 in the morning when clients are trying to, or when patrons are trying to leave the venue? Like I said in my presentation, our primary concern, as addressed with the noise element, is the volume of people leaving early in the mornings and the congestion that's caused and the delay that's caused waiting on valet to come and pick up their vehicles. And then, of course, how does the lack of that extra 100 cars that we don't yet have a solution for, that's part of the municipal code requirement, part of their CUP requirement, address finding of facts D? That sort of globally on the CUP, we don't have a solution for that yet, and yet that's a requirement of the CUP to have something in place to satisfy those. Thank you again for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone for participating in the public hearing. With that, I would like to close the public hearing and open for deliberation. If any of my fellow commissioners would like to start or have any questions for staff, by all means, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm done with questions. I'm ready to discuss and deliberate.
Okay.
I can ask a few questions from staff. So anyone remembers when Rite Aid closed? Do we have a date?
The code amendments, do you mean?
No, the actual store.
Oh, the Rite Aid closed.
About a year ago, I believe. They
Any-
closed a bunch of stores over the last year, I believe.
Anyone remembers this Rite Aid, particular Rite Aid hours of operation?
Yes, it was 7 to 10 p.m., 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Just because it's not going to get recorded, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. They did have limited hours. I used to go there a lot, yeah.
Thank you. And does by any chance staff remembers when that Rite Aid was approved? Did we do any traffic study for that? Anyone remembers any traffic count or anything for that Rite Aid store?
I need to go back and look. I believe that went through an initial study, but let me go back and look into that for you.
Okay. And do you remember if that Rite Aid had the right to sell alcohol? It did, okay. Okay. There are more deliberation, not kind of questions. Do we go through them now, or we go through them after?
I'd like to ask a question or two, and then we can open for deliberation amongst ourselves.
Please, go ahead, yeah.
Can the staff, I mean, there was a comment earlier that the appellate made as to bringing the CUP back to staff every 2 years to ensure that the conditions of approval are met. Is the current timeline 10 years, and can staff touch on that just so that we have it on the public record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Currently, the condition of approval is 5 years until December 12th, 2029. And what the appellant was referring to was a code termination clause. That clause was actually referring to if, not so much a conditional, not like this type of termination or renewal period. That actually referred to a clause in our code that says that if an applicant doesn't take action on an entitlement, such as a conditional use permit, that it expires after 2 years with no action. So that's quite not the same. But for this case, the condition of approval is 5 years.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification.
And Chair Trakchian and members of the Planning Commission, if I could just add to that just a little bit. So the commission can put a time limit, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. However, just to note that a CUP does grant a certain amount of vested rights once the applicant is granted a CUP and they invest time and, more importantly, money into the business. They do legally gain vested rights, and so then what happens is the renewal, let's say the Planning Commission decided 2 years, they would come back in 2 years for a renewal. However, the burden upon the city to deny the renewal would be much higher. It would sort of depend on if they were operating their business akin to a nuisance. So certainly there is a ability to condition it or to limit the CUP to 2 years and have them come back in 2 years. But just to note that at that time, unless we can show that they're operating their business completely out of line with the CUP conditions and are operating as a nuisance, it would be difficult legally to not grant the renewal at that time.
Thank you for the clarification. Is that the same if we were to maintain the 5-year period?
Yeah, it is the same. Once the property owner or business owner expends that significant money, then the vested right is perfected.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Let's go ahead and deliberate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you very much for coming here and taking the time to share your experiences with us. I am very familiar with the site. As a matter of fact, if you know the history of this small commercial strip area, it used to have all the small neighborhood services businesses. There was a beauty salon, a small store. I even remember Mr. Ortiz, the hairstylist guy that was there. And then it took on some changes from small stores to the Starbucks, and then to Rite Aid, or Rite Aid to Starbucks, whatever. But I can see that this neighborhood has gone through so many challenges with the different businesses that's gone in there. We welcome new businesses, and I have no doubt that being successful in Los Feliz, you're running a very good, business. Unfortunately for me, noise is not just an issue. You can confine all the noises that you want inside the building as much as you want, but then after having a party, drinking, being happy, you go out at 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, there's the noise outside of the building. And like I said, maybe it's a good business or a good proposal, but I'm thinking it's in the wrong location or neighborhood. So I couldn't find all of the 4 findings, and specifically, I think the business is not compatible with the neighborhood. And speaking about traffic, I'm very familiar with Pacific, Burchett, and the one-way. People drive through the one-way. I myself, I'm guilty of not getting into the valet to pay, so I'll go on the side streets and park in there. And so that's detrimental to the environment or the general welfare or the neighborhood. Also, the use, I think, will conflict with, it doesn't have to be 200 feet or 300 feet or 400 feet, but directly on the other side of the street are single-family residential zone. So I think it conflicts with adjacent uses. And parking, whether you have 50 or 60 parking spaces with a capacity of 250 to 300 people, you can pack 4 people in one car. That's still going to need more than 50 parking spaces. So I don't think I can find the findings for that. And when the right time comes, I'll be more than ready to make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nazarian?
Thank you, Chair. I was trying to, thank you, by the way, everyone attending the meeting. It's nice to see all interested parties here, residents, the applicant, the owner. I know the area really well because my parents used to live across Caddy Corner from Canco on Arden, so I used to drive through Burchett to get to them all the time for years. So I know the street, I know the traffic issue, I know when Starbucks open and everything. So, but I'm also, and I was listening to everyone, speaker number 1, 2, 3, and person who lived in Patterson and Marty and everyone else. The big theme I'm listening and trying to understand is the traffic concern and everything. And in our industry and development, we have the common thing called shared parking and traffic counts. And when I think about those terms and think about the banquet hall, something that living in Glendale and being one of them at least 3 or 4 times a year, we go to weddings, so I'm pretty familiar with the operation. I understand when people come out on the deck and try to smoke cigar, even though it's not legal. So when considering all of those things and considering the previous use of Rite Aid, the banquet hall will have maybe at the most 70, 80 cars parked there for any event, excluding the employees and everything. And purely on traffic engineering terms speaking, you have 70 or 80 cars coming in at spread of 2-3 hours, and then leaving probably within a couple hours. So that traffic impact, it's nothing compared to when you consider a store like Rite Aid, which will have up to 10 p.m. operation, and between 9 to 10, you can have hundreds of cars going in and out from that same parking that now it's obviously vacant. So I just want to make sure I'm bringing this up, and I know some of you may disagree, but
Excuse me,
just,
if you're, excuse me, if you're in the public, please, we ask that you be mindful of the meeting. We gave everyone an ample opportunity to speak, and excuse me, sir. Sir, I'd ask if you could please allow us to continue our meeting in peace. Thank you very much. Apologies, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. And another thing I want to bring up is, again, the common term shared parking that imagine an office space and a cinema when they're next to each other with a parking structure. They perfectly just collaborate and just complement each other. The office uses the parking structure 8 to 5. Everyone leaves on weekend and after hours. Cinema or theater uses the parking, which is very similar to this business because they have nothing to do Monday to Thursday. They obviously start late Friday or Saturday when they have an event, and I appreciate the offer that they have for the resident at 500, that they're offering parking in their lots. I think that's pretty generous. I do feel for the 3 residents, 501, 503, and 511, right across that driveway for cars coming in and out, past 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. I understand that. But in a big scheme of everything else, when I'm hearing people talking about the park and extra traffic, in reality, if anything, this banquet hall will decrease the traffic, I believe. Again, this is something that we have to look at the Rite Aid traffic count, what they assume back then when the Rite Aid was open, how many cars they assume it's going to come in and out of that parking lot. And is that equal more or less than the number of parking that we just spoke, the traffic count on this one? Again, Pacific, the traffic issues, you got to look at this just on a pure number basis and fact basis. I know we get emotional sometimes about thinking these cars in and out and bedding and everything, but on a pure term of traffic count, I don't believe 70 or 80 cars per event per day has anything close to what that 13,000 square feet building we talked about, parking count can have on any other use, grocery or anything. Someone talked about Big Square parking in their area. I don't know about that person, but when I go shop Big Square, I won't, if it's not parking, I just go to another store. I won't go park 2 blocks away. So again, I feel for those 3 houses that I mentioned, the 3 addresses, they're right across the driveway. So maybe there's a solution. Somehow those 2 wide driveways, maybe something can happen with those 2 driveways. Maybe the area in between the driveway can be screened by trees, by fence or something. I don't know. Purely because of the headlight concern that someone brought up after 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., which I understand. But as far as parking count, I just don't see the traffic increase because of the banquet hall operation, unless there's some proven fact. It's hard for me to believe in that. So other than that, I was trying to listen every other concern, but there are majority of them running around the traffic increase, which to me right now, it's not justifiable. To me, that Starbucks in and out and the way Burchett is right now, this business, I don't believe it's going to significantly impact what it was when the Rite Aid was there. So again, with all that said, it's not that I'm saying I'm ready one way or the other, but that's my observation from everything else. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to thank the applicant, the appellant, and everyone that spoke today for your time and for caring about our community. That truly means a lot to us, no matter what side of the aisle we're on our issues. I think this dialogue with the community is very important, and so I encourage everyone to participate in our meetings on a go-forward basis. There was a gentleman who spoke about permitting options for the neighboring streets. I want to just make abundantly clear that this is not under the purview of the Planning Commission. I'm happy to ask if staff is willing to look into this option and discuss further outside of this meeting with residents to see if that's something that would even be feasible. So maybe we could just make note of that for future reference so that the residents' concerns are heard if that's something that they're interested in. You know, I try and reiterate this every time we have a CUP or something of similar, I guess, note at the Planning Commission. Our job as planning commissioners is not to take into account, for example, the proposal of a drive-through on the In-N-Out or for things that are outside the purview of what's being asked of us here today. My job as a planning commissioner is to see if we're able to meet the 4 findings that are required for a CUP and to judge the meeting that way. If I'd like to just add one note to staff, I think it would have been really helpful if part of the presentation for public record included the approvals of condition from the planning hearing officer. I know that it was in our staff report, but I do think that's integral context to give to the community as to what you're requiring from the applicant, and it would have been nice to just, reassert that for the record today. Outside of that, thank you for all of your hard work and for a great presentation. So with all of that said, I just wanted to touch on a few points. I believe several people mentioned the potential issue being payment from the valet. My understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected if I was wrong, was that the valet would be offered free of charge. If we need to include that in a condition of approval, I'm happy to do that, to bind it within our decision here today, but I just wanted to reiterate that point. I think the primary issue that I'm concerned about is traffic. I appreciate the applicant's efforts to mitigate noise via the structure of the building, as well as, the design of certain aspects of the building and where the patio is oriented. I think ultimately, the points that I'm stuck on is how are we going to ensure that there's no overflow parking, and how are we going to ensure that when when frequenters of this business leave, how are they not going to be a nuisance or make noise on the way out of the venue? Those are my primary concerns. I'm personally open to working those into the conditions of approval. I agree with Commissioner Nazarian that the traffic in this case, the hours of operation of a banquet hall are late night. So when you're talking about a traffic increase, you're talking about vehicles coming and leaving the property at the time of day where the least amount of cars are on the road. So I personally don't think it's going to be adding daily traffic to the residents. Again, my concern is more so, is there going to be adequate safety measures in place and noise mitigation measures in place for people that come in and out of the property? And also, how can we ensure that, if there's not enough parking on site, there is never going to be a circumstance where cars are being parked on the streets? So those are really my concerns that I'd like to talk about with my fellow commissioners. But on the grounds of some of the other issues that were raised, I just wanted to make it clear for the record, and also say that I'm not in opposition of some of those other things. These are really the areas that personally I think we should try and work into the findings, and that's just my initial thoughts.
I was going to say, as far as I'm concerned, I have several questions from staff that I think they need time to provide some of the information. So I was going to make a motion to delay this for making any decision till the next meeting, till we have the information needed.
Just on that, I did go back and take a look at when the Rite Aid came in. There was a negative declaration prepared, and it did analyze traffic. At that time, under CEQA, traffic was analyzed in a different way based off level of service. It's not done that way anymore. But at the time, let me just pull it up again, sorry.
That's correct. Yeah, it used to be that, and now it's VMT. But even with that, there must be some traffic count on that report. That's what I'm looking for.
There were traffic counts based off the pharmacy use with a drive-through. If you can give me like 5 minutes, I can try and print some of this out for you. Okay.
Sure.
If you guys want to keep going, it's going to take me 5 minutes.
If my fellow commissioners are okay with it, can we take a 5-minute break, allow staff to gather some of these answers, and then we can reopen the meeting in 5 minutes?
Wonderful idea. Make a motion for that, yes.
So recess for about 5 minutes?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I believe where we left off is we gave staff an opportunity to prepare some background information on a traffic study that was done for the Rite Aid. And so I'd like to reopen our discussions, and if any commissioners have any comments, feel free.
If I may just kind of summarize what I found for the record. So we went back and we took a look at when Rite Aid was approved. There was a negative declaration prepared. Traffic impacts were determined to be less than significant. At the time, the applicant provided a traffic impact analysis. The traffic impact analysis indicated that the Rite Aid would generate 101 trips per day. At that time, the requirement for a traffic impact analysis would be a trip generation rate of 150 trips per day or more. However, they didn't hit that threshold. However, they still provided it. The analysis in the negative declaration at that time determined there would be a less than significant impact based off the number of trips being generated. And as we look at a change of use, generally, we will look to see what the increase in that trip count would be. The threshold to require a traffic impact analysis for the change of use to a banquet hall would be if 50 trips or more would be generated during AM and PM peak hours. Because banquet halls tend to operate at different hours than would be a AM PM peak, that 50 trips or more per day was not triggered. Therefore, traffic did not require a traffic impact analysis to be prepared, and a copy of their comments are included with the attachments, and they didn't have any significant comments either related to traffic.
Thank you. Very helpful context. Commissioners, Commissioner Nazarian, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So just a question to staff on this document was just provided to us dated September 2015. On the second page, first main paragraph, it talks about utilizing 2012 IT trip generation manual. The trip generation for the proposed project, pharmacy plus drugstore with drive-through, would result in approximately 1,441 daily trips, of which 50 trips occur during the morning peak, and 144 trips inbound and 72 outbound occur during the evening peak. So is this, am I reading this right, that was suggesting that the Rite Aid would generate 1,400 trip per day, 1,400 plus? While you're reading that, I suspect what you were referring to maybe was peak hours, not the entire daily trip, because peak hour is obviously 144 during evening. That's in line with what you were saying about 150. I believe what you were referring to as far as 150 versus 100 approximately trip, I think you were probably referring to peak hour trip, not the daily trip, because the total daily trip per this report is 1,441 projected daily trip, which sounds about right for a store in operation like that.
Sorry, I read this as quickly as you guys did, but you're faster than I am.
I know where to look for. That's my job.
I'm Eric Cross. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Development. I was kind of like listening online. In reference to the 1,400 trips, in my quick review of that study, it looks like that's talking about the existing road in terms of the total number of trips on the existing roadway. So that's all in kind of the background study. And then when it leads up to the actual trips generated from the project, that's what gets done on 101.
Appreciate that. Just reading it again, on the first sentence says utilizing 2012 ITE trip generation manual. The trip generation for the proposed project, doesn't say for the neighborhood or anything, it says for the proposed project would result in approximately 1,441 daily trip.
Yeah, but if you keep looking through the whole study and whole analysis, back in the day, you would get trip credits for the existing trips that are on the site and everything else. So I just kind of went straight to the summary in the back of the text, which basically explains that the total daily trips for that particular use after you're taking away existing trips and everything else gets down to the 101. I don't know if that might be PM peak or AM peak. That could be
I
correct.
suspect that it
yeah.
was. I mean, 100 trip for a store that significant for 12 hours, that's like 10 trip per hour. That's not realistic.
Yeah, I do believe you're correct. That's probably for the AM or PM peak.
Yes.
I just looked at this thing in literally 10 seconds.
Yeah, sure. And that's the point I was trying to make all along, that this is a store like that. Just the peak hour, 1 hour, will generate almost equal trip that this new proposed project will. That was the point I was all along trying to make. And with that, I'll just close it. Appreciate getting all this information. Thank you.
Commissioner Fuentes, do you have any further comment on your end?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner Zarian, no further comment?
No, thank you.
Okay. I believe part of the challenge that we're facing today is that, we only have 3 of us present. I think it's a less than ideal circumstance. I also think that it would have been very helpful from staff's perspective to have a comparative analysis between the traffic induced by the existing use as it would compare to this as part of the presentation for us to analyze from the beginning of this process. There were a few items within the conditions of approval I just wanted to highlight for public record, just so that everyone is on the same page about what the planning hearing officer is already mandating as a requirement for this approval. Number 1 being that guests utilizing valet parking shall not be charged an entry fee for parking during any private event, and that the guest vehicles entering the lot shall not create waiting lanes on Burchett Street at any time. All queuing of vehicles shall occur only on the project site. That the proposed drop-off and pickup area will be fully contained within the project site and will not extend onto city streets. That a minimum of 1 staff member of the establishment shall be posted at the Burchett Street exit during business hours plus 1 hour after closing, and that staff member shall divert traffic away from the residential streets towards Pacific Avenue. That the project shall designate a loading zone in the area of the parking lot, and that no loading or unloading of supplies for the facility may be permitted in the driveway to the parking area, and that no residential street parking is allowed by customers and/or valet services. So these are all some topics that we, went back and forth on and debated. Again, I think it would have been very helpful to have these conditions of approval up front for purposes of discussion so that we all started on the same page. So I just wanted to reiterate those findings. I don't suspect that we have agreement amongst our commissioners. And so I'd like to, again, give each of my fellow commissioners an opportunity to speak as is courtesy of chairing the meeting, and then I can go third for my opinion on what we should do to proceed.
Well, I think I already made my position clear that it's not only the traffic or the noise that we are, looking into this. While the use is allowed in the zone subject to a conditional use permit, some of the findings I still cannot find 100%. So I already mentioned that the compatibility of the use, the residential is just across the street, and that's one big or major issue for me. And managing traffic and noise effectively with one person and about 250 people on 50 or 60 or 70 cars leaving the premise, you really cannot control the noise. And as I mentioned earlier, after partying and having a good time and drinking, you go out of the confined building, you open the door and everybody's happy, making a noise and all that. So there is a little bit of detriment to the health and, welfare of the neighborhood or the general public. And I mentioned that while I think the business is a good business, it may be in the wrong location. So I think it will conflict with adjacent existing uses, such as the residential zone. And adequate public and private facilities, I still question the 50 on-site parking spaces versus the 212 required by code. So I am inclined to not support the decision of the hearing officer, but I'm not making a motion at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nazarian?
Thank you. As I mentioned before, the three residents right across the driveway, 501, 503, 511, I do understand the concern, and I do believe there's going to be some sort of an impact, maybe after 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. on the driveways and cars leaving and coming in, mostly leaving, I guess, at that time. I do also believe there could be a solution there for the driveways. Again, possibly screening, possibly even one of them being shut down during the after hours, after 10 p.m. But overall, as far as the community and other streets and everything else and the traffic count, what you saw here, 1,400 traffic count versus 70, 80, I do believe, if anything, this business actually will reduce the traffic in and out of Burchett. But again, I want to emphasize, I do understand the concern for those three residents, 501, 503, 511. Those are the three, the most of them actually being 501, 503, because 511 may have a solution with that second driveway. With that, again, I do believe that we're not in agreement overall here, so this might be continued for the next meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. In looking at the conditional use permit findings, from my perspective, I am able to meet the 4 findings similar to the planning hearing officer. The proposed use being consistent with the various elements and objectives of the city's general plan. Again, this is not zoned for housing, so it's not detracting from housing availability or quality. It's within a C2 zone designated for community services. That is how the site is zoned within our city's general plan. And again, within the conditions of approval, there's expectations to comply within the noise limits of the noise element. We touched on some of the mitigation factors to that earlier. As far as the second finding, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. Again, I'm very sympathetic to all of the commentary that we heard from the residents today. Ultimately, my main concern, again, came down to the parking and the safety. And I think that given the planning officer's conditions of approval, that these mandated reasonable operation, crime prevention with the added security on the facility and the area, adherence to police and urban forestry's recommendations, compliance with security standards, and regular access to city representatives to verify compliance. Again, there's a requirement for there to be 2 security guards on the premises anytime there's more than 100 people. I believe the applicant mentioned that their preference actually was going to be to have double that at 4. There's also a requirement for there to be adequate lighting in the parking area and camera surveillance, which again, I think is beneficial to the overall safety of the area, if that's the finding we're being asked to make. The third condition of approval is the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of the surrounding property. We touched on this. I agree with Commissioner Nazarian as far as the traffic impacts. I won't go as far as to say necessarily that traffic will get less or improve, but I do think that, you know, isolated increases in traffic occurring at the hours a day that we have not so much traffic in the city is not going to be as large of a nuisance as is expected from a traffic standpoint. Again, I think the primary concern that I had today was, are we doing enough to mitigate any overflow of parking, and is there sufficient parking on site, which I'll get to in a moment. The fourth condition is that adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. I'm inclined, given the applicant's experience in operating a similar type of business, to take his word for there being adequate parking. With that being said, under the premise that we probably do not have an agreement today, it would be helpful for the next time we hear this to kind of have a more detailed egress and ingress plan for how the valet parking is going to be handled and what would be done in the event of an overflow. I understand that the applicant can't, you know, sign a lease before they have an approval or understand where this is going to go, but I would like to hear, I guess, more detailed findings as to what the backup plans are and how the circulation would be handled. Personally, I believe the findings are there, given our legal purview, but again, I don't believe we have a motion, and so I'll reopen it to my commissioners. If anyone would like to make a motion to continue this item, that would be okay with me.
Could we, commissioners, at least try to get a vote on the record so that then we could determine that we don't have the three votes?
It will still be continued anyway,
And then you may continue it, yes.
Don't pass, okay. Well, then, would you like to make a motion?
I think I could. I could make a motion to upheld the decision of the planning officer here for the approval of the CUP.
There was one item you had mentioned as far as allowing resident parking. Would you like to include that in your motion?
Appreciate you reminding me that. Yes, I would like to amend the motion with adding that as a condition to allowing the resident park within the parking lot of the business as per the owner offered it. Yes, thank you.
If I could suggest that we phrase that condition that applicant will work with the city as well as the neighbors to come up with a plan to offer the residents of the neighborhood some sort of parking on the lot, so that it's a little bit more open-ended, so that the city can work with the applicant and the owner and the neighbors.
Is that making a true condition then for the owner applicant, or it's what you're saying, it's something just to work with, so it's not a true condition of approval?
Well, I think I'll leave it to staff if something else is feasible.
I mean, we can condition that they have it and that an arrangement be made. You could be more specific if you think there's certain hours of the day you would like them to be able to park there. I mean, we understand that the banquet hall will have, you know, hours of operation that are later in the day, so during the day, maybe that's an option for people. We do want to leave it a little open-ended too, just to give everybody some flexibility.
Sure.
When you're too prescriptive, it's
Sure.
hard to then maybe enforce that.
How about Monday through Thursday, the owner offers up to 12 parking stalls? Is that fair? For approved residents, per the city coordination, for a special permit or a plaque, 12 of them maximum for Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 p.m. or 8 to 6 p.m. Not overnight parking. I don't think that's safe for anyone, so.
And Commissioner Nazarian, if I could just ask who you are mandating would get these 12? I mean, is there a radius or?
That's the part that I would leave it open for the city to work with. I would give preference to closer to the building they are, like 501, 503, 511, get first right of refusal. And then after that, whoever is closer within Burchett, and if there's no 12 candidate for Burchett, they can go next block as well. but owner at least is obligated to offer 12 of them, if the demand is there.
Very good, thank you.
Just preference to immediately abutting properties, and then that radius is to expand until the 12 spots are taken.
I would say the closer they are to the building, they have priority compared to the others. Is that clear enough, or, okay? Thank you.
I'm inclined to second with a slight tweak that,
You have to pass the gavel to me.
Sorry.
oh, if I'm going to second, well, let me throw something out there first. I would say that it should be a minimum of 12, not a maximum, and that the owner can ultimately decide what the correct number is.
Minimum.
I'm not disagreeing with the minimum, but I think you have to put a cap so you don't have a burden over there. What if 50 people want to park there? I mean, there's got to be a reasonable burden on the ownership as well. So I'm okay if you want to make the minimum 12, but there should be a max too, because otherwise, I think, what if they want to use few stalls for their own operation during Monday to Thursday? So there should be a cap for that. So if you're recommending a cap and they're okay with that, I'm okay.
My personal recommendation would be 25 for the cap. Well, yep.
Could we have him come up to the mic?
You can come up here.
Mr. Chair, okay.
I completely agree with 12. I think that's a fair judgment of how many spots we may need just because of the homes close to our parking lot. But 25, I'm sorry, my personal opinion, I think it's overdoing it because we wouldn't want to just give people parking which they don't need. Now, it's like they're taking advantage of the situation. But with 12, I'm completely okay with that. And Monday through Thursday, the time and the hours, I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You okay?
I have no further comment.
You want to second it? Are you going to
So
second it?
I'm willing to second that motion. With that, I can pass the gavel.
Okay, and the cap would be 12, is what I'm understanding then, based on?
25 is what he
Well,
wants.
well,
Or minimum is 12.
the minimum is 12, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Or sorry, the cap was 12, and I'm agreeing with Commissioner Nazarian's motion.
Okay,
Apologies for confusion.
no worries.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Nazarian, seconded by Chair Trajan. Roll call, please.
All right.
The motion is to upheld the decision of the hearing officer
With the amended condition.
with the amended conditions.
Commissioner Nazarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Atraktian,
Yes.
and Chair Pro Tem Fuentes.
No.
Okay, so with that, the motion has failed. Our option now we could entertain another motion, or we can, under the rules, continue this item to the next regular commission meeting, which would be April 2nd,
Give this back to you. Okay, so
without further notice.
I'll make a motion that we move this case hearing to our next scheduled hearing on
April 2nd, without further notice.
April 2nd without further notice. Same time, same place.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Nazarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Fuentes,
Yes.
and Chair Tarakchian.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so this item is going to be continued until April 2nd without further public notice. With that, we will move on to the next agenda item.
Ms. Azadi, can I add something? I just wanted to remind the commissioners that they may, at that time, reopen the public hearing or open it for a limited purpose only to ask questions, or keep the public hearing closed at that time and just deliberate.
Mr. Chair.
Or go straight to the voting or decision.
Well, we may have 2 new commissioners joining us at the next hearing, so I would recommend that we go through the entire process again, present all the cases and comments and everything, so that the 2 commissioners will be aware of what's,
You can certainly do
So
that. The
that's-
option
that's
is
my-
also available for those 2 commissioners to watch the tape of tonight's meeting and come up to speed.
Yes, so
However, it's up
that's-
to the commission.
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion also that we start from the beginning on the presentation of the case, since we have 2 new commissioners joining us.
I think because the fact that it's unknown if we're going to have 4 or 5 or even possibly again 3, I don't know if there's any harm of seconding this motion or not at all.
You may wait until the day of the
I
meeting
think
to
I would like
decide.
to, yes, yes.
Okay.
And I would be inclined to wait.
Just so it's clear for the record, we will ask the other commissioners to watch the recording. Regardless of what you guys decide, we would ask them to do that.
That would be
So they
awesome.
have all the information, and then we can also look into some of these items that has come up today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just make sure they do, so they'll know what's transpired. Thank you. Ahead of time. Give them plenty of time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I believe next on our agenda would be Community Development Department updates. Do we have any?
I actually have a few items I wanted to just kind of update everybody on. First, we do have a new commissioner that was appointed at last night's city council meeting, or rather, he was reappointed. Mr. Manassian was reappointed last night. He still needs to be sworn in, and once that happens, he will be joining us up here at the dais, so looking forward to that. At the March 12th city council meeting, which was last week, planning staff was directed to look into CUP and development standards for drive-throughs. So that's something we will be working on in the coming months. It will come back to you. If you guys recall, except for you, Mr. Nazarian, we did review drive-throughs last summer. That ordinance was not adopted. It failed at council. However, we have reopened the item and we'll be looking into it again. Also, last night, City Council approved the consultant selection for the Verdugo Wash Master Plan. There was an RFP process, which there were 9 proposals from various firms, and they selected MVVVA Associates. They will be preparing the master plan, which is funded by state grants. So that'll also be coming to you guys at some point. Last night, council, I apologize. Long-range planning staff will be presenting an update on the annual progress report on housing production to City Council on April 1st in the afternoon. That same presentation will come to you on April 16th as a study session, along with some general plan updates. Also for the April 1st City Council meeting, long-range planning staff will be presenting the 2025 safety element update for adoption. If you recall, you guys heard that item at the last meeting. And just a general update for anyone in the audience or watching at home, we are in the process of updating our general plan element, and anyone is welcome to check the city's website for updates and information. The website link is www.glendaleplan.com. You're also welcome to contact long-range planning staff at 818-548-2140 for questions or information.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that was long.